Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bonnie Allen, and I am a happy, joyous, and free member of Al-Anon. Thank you. And I cannot thank you, the committee, enough for inviting me. It is always an honor to be here. And, you know, my cup is so filled. It's been speaking to me since I got here, all the speakers and all the sharing. You know, it's that whole thing, when we give, we get more back, really. So being of service has always greater in return, for sure. So I am delighted to be here. And I felt right at home from the moment I met Dan, who picked me up at the airport and got a little bit lost. And so I felt right at home. He didn't have to be perfect, and I feel really comfortable now not having to be perfect. Because we were talking before, if I wasn't perfect, I was worthless. And that's the big change for me, too. Now I can just celebrate my humanness most of the time. So I'm thrilled to be here, absolutely thrilled to be here back in California, where I got my Al-Anon roots. And, oh my goodness, I just saw myself on there. Had I known, I'd have worn my HD makeup. Anyway, you know, it reminds me of, I always say we should have before and after pictures of Al-Anons. Because I will tell you, the day I walked into Al-Anon, I did not look this cute at all. I was a lot younger, number one, but I didn't act younger or feel younger, I'll tell you that. I walked into my first meeting, and I always say, had you looked at the two of us, my husband, the alcoholic, and I, as a couple, you would have said that I was the one with the problem. He drove up to his first meeting in his Mercedes. Now, granted, he called it a classic Mercedes, but what it was an old Mercedes, right? And showed up in his suit and well coiffed, and because I took care of him, right? I dressed him, I made sure he was taken care of. I, on the other hand, drove a beat-up Volkswagen that looked like a drunk's car, right? I used to wear these, I called them schmatas. They were like muumuus, right? We're talking a long time ago. We're talking in the early 70s. So these like schmatas, yeah, rags. And I wore a babushka. I'm Polish, so it sort of went naturally to wear a babushka because I never had money to get my hair done. You know, it all had to go to him. My nails were bitten to the quick, and you didn't know I had dimples, and there was nothing to smile about, and I was mean. I was really mean. And, you know, I probably fit that stereotype. I'm sure we've heard it many of alcoholic marriages, to say if I was married to her, I would drink too, you know. We've heard that. So anyway, the change that happens to us, from the inside and the outside, and a lot of it is, from the reading that Dan said, is acting as if. I didn't get here by mistake, but I do want to say if there are, I love conventions where they do have Al-Anon participation. Blanche, a pal of ours, used to always say, I am so great, you were so generous in sharing the disease with us. Thank you so much for sharing the solution. And so thank you, Alcoholics Anonymous, for that and for including Al-Anon. But I did not get here by mistake. I was born into a normal alcoholic family. In Cleveland, Ohio, my father owned a bar, and it was a typical alcoholic family. I did not know it was alcoholism at all. I come from a very old world Polish Catholic family, and I always say the difference between the Irish and the Polish, the Irish Catholics anyway, the Irish would have the priest over and have a drink with them, and Polish, we believed everything. We were grim, we're hardworking, sacrifice. That's my background. So it was in Cleveland, Ohio, where the very first AA meeting was, really, you know. And I remember my dad, he used to, at his bar, you know, he used to say, you know, if a double amen comes in, and that's what they called them in those days, double amen, he said, and he asked for a drink, I would not serve him one. And I thought, well, that's sort of what I knew about AA. And then my mother, when my father was really bad, and you know, she would threaten to send him to the double amen. And when she said the double amen, it was like really to stoop to the bottom, right? And we stoop so low, right? But I learned all those wonderful things that you learn in an alcoholic family. My mother was so busy and obsessed with the alcoholic. She was super critical. She was super controlling. And the feeling I always remember is always just being terrified. I learned from a master to stand at the window in the middle of the night with my mother, looking out the window, waiting for my father's car to drive around the corner. Is he going to make it home? Is he going to, smash up a car? Are the cops going to drive him home? You know, I learned that, and when we'd see his car, we would jump into bed and pretend everything is fine. And then we'd get up the next morning, and, say my father had been dropped off by the cops, but like the next morning, nothing was said. And it was like, for me, it's like my perception's always been warped. Like, did my father really get dropped off by the cops last night? Or maybe I was dreaming it. And that kind of craziness of not knowing my reality, which can still be to this day, I can live in magical thinking. It's like I always share this other story I found my very own alcoholic, of course. And we'd be in the house, and Sean would drink this whole bottle of wine. And it would just be the two of us. And I say, Sean, you drank that whole bottle of wine. And he would say, no, I didn't. And I would think to myself, well, I wonder who did drink it. I know I didn't drink it. Like, who would have really drank it? I believed everything the alcoholic told me, everything. So that was my keen thinking. Anyway, I found a place that was safe for me, and my mother, thank God, sent me to ballet school. And for me, it was a refuge. I had wonderful teachers who nurtured me, that I didn't have to be afraid of what's going on at home, and my crazy mother and my father, and I seemed to have a natural talent, and it became my ticket to get out of Cleveland, is what it really was. I knew if I could get out of Cleveland, if I could get away from my mother, from my father, from the Catholic Church, I would just be leaving all my problems behind me. And so I packed up my bags. I told my parents I'm going to New York to try my dance career. I'm going for 3 months and give it a try. And in my heart, I knew I was leaving forever. I knew that they were the problem. It was my own little geographic. So I was 17. I packed up my bags, went to New York City with $50 in my pocket. And I have to tell you have to know, because this person still exists. I was always this terrified little Polish girl from Cleveland. But I knew I had to get out of it. I always knew there was something better than Cleveland. I don't know. Anyway, I got to New York, terrified, and every time I would get really scared, I'd call my mother, and she would give me an update of what's going on. And my mother talked in a scream all the time, and angry all the time. And it's like, I can't go back. I can't, no matter how scared I am. I can't go back to that. And so I got some jobs in theater as a dancer. It was beyond my wildest dreams. And then one day in a new show, the first day of rehearsal, in walked this tall, charming Irishman. And, You know, it's that moment when an Al-Anon recognizes potential. Oh my God, I don't know. It's just like, whew, he just took my breath away, you know? I just knew, I could tell within a few minutes that all he really needed was a little work, right? And so he was charming, he was smart, he was good looking, he was Irish with the gift of gab, and a talented singer, actor, and he was interested in me. Oh my God, anybody interested in me. I was just like, I mean, anybody who would offer me a job, I took it, because I thought, oh my God, that anybody would want to hire me. Oh. So this guy, this good-looking, tall guy, handsome, charming, was interested in me, this little Polish girl from Cleveland. And so we got together. We really did. And you know what? He drank a little. But I knew that life with me would be so wonderful that I would just love him enough. And it seemed like the two of us together, sort of my defects and his, where I had weaknesses, he had strengths, and vice versa. So together, the two of us, yes, got so enmeshed that the two of us sort of made one decent adult. And that was the basis of our marriage. That was the basis of our marriage. It really was. And so I'll tell you, when my parents met him, my mother took me aside and she said, you know, he's nothing but a drunk and a con artist. Well, you know who I had to eliminate out of my life was my parents. And they disowned me. You know, this was in the 60s, and I'm Polish Catholic, and they found out. Now, nothing like an Al-Anon on a mission. I'll tell you, my mother was, she's a piece of work, was a piece of work. I was doing the show. I was doing a Broadway show that was touring across the United States. And we played in Cleveland. The next stop was Chicago. She somehow figured out that I was living with Sean. You don't do that. A Polish Catholic girl does not do that in the late 60s, right? Anyway, my mother called every hotel in Chicago and tracked me down. They tracked me down, got on the phone. My father threatened to shoot Sean, my husband, to be. And then she called the producer of the show, who was Freddie Brisson, who was Rosalind Russell's husband, that she could track him down and get him on the phone and demand that he fire me. That's my mother on a mission. Anyway, she disowned me when I married Sean. And you know what? I was really glad. I really just, we never got along. I was glad she was out of my life, really. And so, you know, he drank a little. And when we ended up in Los Angeles, the show ended, and we got married, and suddenly I noticed his drinking. It's like I settled down, but he didn't, right? And because I thought we were young and crazy, and now it's time to be mature as adults, right? And that's when, for me, the insanity really continued. And my story, I always say, is not a really dramatic story. He didn't go to jail. He didn't get arrested. He wasn't physically abusive. For me, it was just the day-to-day insanity of living with an alcoholic, of not knowing what the problem is, of trying to figure it out. It never occurred to me that he should go to work. I had the jobs, right? Now, I never danced again, and it's again the other thing when we ended up in Los Angeles, and that was in the early 70s. There was no work, you know, in theater in those days. It all still came out of New York. I never danced again. I gave up my career in a New York minute without ever thinking what I wanted to do. I got into he-ism immediately. It was all about him, his career, what's right for him, forget what's right for me. So he was the artist, he was the actor, and I was the one who faked my way on all sorts of crazy jobs just to be the steady Eddie, keep the money coming in. And you know, Sean used to share when he spoke at a meeting, he said he was a functioning drunk. He had a wife who worked. And that's really what it was. I was the great enabler, the great enabler. And so that's what our life was like. Life gets smaller and smaller when you get involved with the disease. Your friends disappear, family disappear, money disappears. And in so many ways, it was always, no matter what I would confront Sean with, he could turn it around and I would end up apologizing. I don't know about you, but he had a real knack for that. And I was so willing to take on the blame and the responsibility. And God forbid he leave me. God forbid. I didn't have the courage to speak up. I didn't know how. I had no tools at all. And so one day I happened to be out of town helping somebody who didn't need help, because I did all that sort of thing. And Sean called and said he joined AA. And I was not impressed, because I told you what I knew about AA. If we stooped to the bottom, right? Anyway, I came back from a week, and he said that there was a place for me to go to. He was happy to tell me that there was a place for me. And it was called Al-Anon. And so I went to my very first Al-Anon meeting in Los Angeles, the Arlington meeting, a really good, strong, great group. And I always said I always had my feelings confused. I always said I loved Al-Anon, and what it really was is I felt safe for the very first time in my entire life. I never felt safe at home. I have always been terrified, always lived in fear, and suddenly I was in a room full of people who knew exactly what it was like. And nobody said, why don't you leave him? And the other thing I heard, which we hear all the time, I don't know if I heard of the first meeting or the first 6 meetings or the first 6 months, I have no idea, is that, number one, I wasn't married to a crazy man or a monster. I was married to somebody who had a disease, and that I was affected by it. And I didn't cause him to drink, and there's nothing I can do that would make him drink. And the other thing is, because I had hated myself so much, they told me that the promise is that I could turn my life around 180 degrees. I could be the person I wanted to be. And I didn't like myself very much. And thank God for rooms like this of people loving me when I could not love myself at all. I mean, as I said, I was mean and nasty. I was full, and what it really was underneath was stark raving terror. People used to think I was a snob, and my first sponsor gave me a T-shirt and it had the mouth on it, because I just offended everybody. I mean, I really did. It's just like, stay away from me, you know, and so I started this journey, and we both started the journey, Sean in AA and me in Al-Anon. And as we know, sobriety brings its own set of problems, for sure. But it was about finding out who I was. And, you know, it was really easy. It's easy to blame the drunk for everything, you know, when they're drinking. It really is. You know, if he wouldn't, well, it was good to blame everybody for anything, really. And so we lived in this house in the Hollywood Hills, and it was on a trail. It wasn't even on a street. It had no foundation. It was on a cesspool. It looked adorable on the outside, but the insides were falling apart. And that's what the two of us looked like. When we were new in the program, they called us the Campbell Soup Kids. We were just so cute. Nothing on the inside. Total disaster on the inside. And I started finding out who Bonnie was. I started taking the focus off of him, and starting to find out who Bonnie is. I could tell you everything about Sean, about his favorite books, his favorite movies, his favorite foods. I could tell you everything about him and nothing about myself. And it's been a journey about me. So, again, nothing spectacular other than sitting in rooms and doing what I was told to the best of my ability, being of service, starting with making the cookies and the coffee, and taking suggestions from my sponsor. One of the first things that she did suggest, and I share this because it's a turning point in my relationship with my husband, was she said, now that he's a year sober, because she said don't expect anything until he's got a year of sobriety, right? So I was hanging on to that year for sure. You know, I thought he would turn into Prince Charming, and I said to my sponsor, he's not Prince Charming, and she said, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're not Snow White either, you know? But she said, you know, you're not the only thing that took away his dignity. Not alcohol is the only thing that took away his dignity. You did too, by taking over all the responsibilities. And so she said, now that he's a year sober, I want you to think of something you're willing to turn over to him. And so, you know, she was a very busy lady. She had 3 kids. She was an Al-Anon. She's a teen sponsor. I thought she would, someone gets water. Excuse me. I thought she'd forget all about this little suggestion, right? So 3 weeks went by, and I thought I was off the hook. And so she came up to me and said, have you thought of something you're willing to turn over? And I said, oh, yes, I've given it a great deal of thought. And there's absolutely nothing that I trust him with. I knew it wasn't going to be the money. And the other thing is, though, she said, when you turn it over, you have to let go completely. Oh, like, let go completely. So I turned over the laundry to Sean. And a week went by, and he did not do the laundry. And 2 weeks went by, and he didn't do the laundry. And I called my sponsor, and I said, you know, I could have told you this. You know, these alcoholics, you ask them to do something, they never follow through. And she said, you're not to pick up the laundry. You've got to do it differently. So she said, before, you know, in AA, they say, before you want to take a drink, call another member of AA. She said, before you want to pick up and do the laundry, you call a member of Al-Anon. And maybe they'll talk you out of it. And so 3 weeks went by, nothing was done. It's cascading out of the hamper, and I walked past it. You know how your stomach just churns all the time. And called her, and she said, do not touch the laundry. And so finally, nothing was clean anywhere, and he finally did the laundry. It did not come out nicely, as I knew it would. But, you know, it made a huge change. I really recommend sponsorship. I could not do it without a sponsor because they give you these stupid suggestions, right? And you have no idea the outcome that will come from it, because that little thing of just turning over one responsibility changed the whole dynamics of our marriage. It was the first time, number one, that I had been consistent. You talk about the alcoholic. I was never consistent. I would make lots of threats, but you know what? You don't do it fast enough, and you don't do it in my time. I end up doing it myself. And you know what? We end up doing everything, don't we? Oh, I got that hum of agreement. Thank you. It was the first time I followed through on my word. It was also the first time that I found out that there are different ways to do things. Before, it used to be Bonnie's way or the wrong way. Now there was Bonnie's way, Sean's way. Everybody's got a different way. They're not right or wrong. They're just different ways. And it was the first time I started respecting him, and he in turn started respecting me. And when I started speaking up for myself, you know, I thought to love somebody, I had to learn a whole new way of loving in Al-Anon. I thought if you love someone, you do everything for them, right? Especially a spouse. You cook for them, you do for them. And I found out the opposite was becoming true in Al-Anon, is the more I started standing up to Sean and saying, no, I'm not, that's not my responsibility, or standing up to it, to him, the more he started respecting me. It was just the opposite of what I thought it should have been. But it took a lot of courage, lots of courage for me to start standing up to him, I'll tell you.
To obtain additional copies, receive a free catalog of AA and Al-Anon talks, or to find out about our tape and CD of the Month Club, call Encore Audio Archives at 1-800-878-1308, or visit our website at www.12steptapes.com.
And so our life started changing. You know, I really didn't know if I wanted to stay married to him or leave. I was told not to make any emotional decisions in that first 6 months of Al-Anon. I know they told him the first year in AA. I could make a sarcastic comment about AA, but I won't. But see, I've grown from there, yeah. Anyway, so we've begun this journey in the program of finding out who we are, building some self-respect and some dignity, and repairing our marriage. It gave us the tools to start repairing our marriage, too. So we had an opportunity to, I guess the other thing I have to say, at 5 years, my husband, I came home from one of my regular Al-Anon meetings, and Sean was sitting at the kitchen table looking quite devastated. And he had told me he had been arrested.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
And the miracle happens because I always say, don't leave before your miracles. And miracles still keep happening for me today. So I was 5 years in the program, and even though I had heard the words compassion and serenity, I thought I'll never achieve that. If my stomach, if my insides can just settle down for a little bit, I'll be happy with just that, right? But suddenly he told me what happened. And it was the miracle. Sometimes you don't know you've changed until something happens and you handle it in a totally different way. And it's like, who said that? Like, that's not me. And I was able to look at him and say, I am so sorry that you have to hurt yourself so much. I did not have to say, what are you doing? Why are you screwing up our marriage? Why are you tearing it to bits again after we've just repaired it? And it was real compassion. It was real compassion. And so we made another commitment to start working on our marriage again. And so about when we were 8 years in the program, we had an adorable daughter, Kate, a lively redhead born. And I always thought she'll either be a drunk or marry one. I'll give you that update in a little bit. She's now 32. But anyway, and then we had an opportunity to move to Canada. Now, he's now my ex-husband, who's Canadian. And my worst fear in his drinking is that he would do something so awful, because I don't know about you. When Sean was in a good mood, we were in a good mood. If he was in a bad mood, we were in a bad mood. So whatever happened to me. So I thought, I know he's going to do something so awful, they're going to deport him to Canada. And of course, they'll deport me, even though I'm an American citizen. So my worst fear was to be living in Canada, of which I'm now there 25 years, right? So we had this wonderful opportunity. And the journey continues for me. I think life does continue. The journey continues. I remember, it doesn't matter how long you're in this program. Life is going to happen. You are going to have aging parent problems, grandchildren problems, health problems, financial problems, work problems. Life happens. And thank God we have the tools. And thank God I have rooms like this where I can go anywhere and share that. I went to Al-Anon immediately up in Canada, and there's another Al-Anon member here who gave me a wonderful suggestion. He said, just remember that there's a meeting in Chicago called We Don't Care How You Do It in Southern California. Yeah, it's true. And you know what? They don't do it in Vancouver like we do it in Southern California. They don't. But it works. But the program works. And the other thing is, I can be really grateful. I got my roots here in Southern California, which I still think is fabulous, and the fellowship and the strong program I got that I could take with me. And so the program works everywhere. It really is. It's all about me. Let it begin with me. And so a whole new beginning. A whole new beginning. We moved to Canada. My husband was starting a new company with his brother, and what can I say? It was 18 years of my husband getting a job, losing a job, getting a job, losing a job. And in many ways, I look back, and I was really the financial enabler. I continued my enabling. I was always still the steady Eddie, so he could be Mr. Entrepreneur. I think entrepreneur meant he couldn't really work for anybody else. He couldn't, and he couldn't handle, well, I don't know what his issues are. I still don't know what his issues are. But it went on and on. And I look back, and, over 18 years, I think he had 16 jobs. And one day, it's just like, I kept hoping, and we think we've got this program. He's going active member of AA and got a sponsor, and we've got this program. We should make it work. And I kept listening to what he was saying and not to what he was doing. Loved listening. I want to believe it. When we wanted to make it work. When we hope it can work, he had all the right words, and yet the actions continued to be the same. And one day it was just like, I can't live like this anymore. I can't live with one day. I never knew what was going to happen when I came home from work. Like, what trauma happened today? And anyway, so in all those years I had been working on me. I got my own company. I started doing, with a partner, I started doing public relations. And me, who was like terrified. I didn't speak for the first 6 months in Al-Anon. I had a stutter all through school. That I'm up here speaking is only because of Al-Anon, because I was told never to say no to an Al-Anon request. You never know where it's going to take you. And so I guess I was at a place where enough was enough. And it wasn't a matter of loving anymore. Love doesn't fix alcoholism, and love doesn't and they never made me a promise that the program would guarantee my marriage either, but it would guarantee that I would be okay. So I also have to tell you about my mom. My mom's a really important part of my story, but also back to my ex-husband, it was the point where it was over. We had been together 34 years, not where I wanted to do at that time in my life. But I have found, if I do what's in my best interest, it's usually in other people's best interest too. If it wasn't working for me, it really wasn't working for him either. And, it takes courage to go. It takes courage to stay. So I have to tell you about my mom, because you heard a little bit of what she was like. Just an untreated Al-Anon. I had fought with every fiber of my being not to be like my mother. She was angry, full of rage. I did everything not to be like her, and when I walked into the doors of Al-Anon, I was a carbon copy of her. Absolutely a carbon copy. And we get to that amends step, right? You start working these steps, and I knew that I had to take care of my side of the street. I didn't necessarily want a relationship with her. I just wanted to take care of my side of the street. And so I started communicating with her. I sent her a generic card, and again, another suggestion from my sponsor, just to send a generic card, which I did, thinking of you, and send it to her. And I got my very first card back from my mother in over 7 years, and it said, another generic card, and it was signed Mrs. Jessie Lapka. And that's how we began our conversation. And over time, I could call her on the phone, and she'd piss me off every time on the phone. I think, why do I even need this in my life? And when I was pregnant, I couldn't believe, I'm an only child, right? And I'd call her, never once did she say, Bonnie, how are you feeling? How's the baby? What's happening? Are you, nothing. And I remember one night I hung up the phone for her, and then I went to my meeting, and I walked into my meeting, my Arlington group, which was like 125 strong, and everybody came up and said, oh, Bonnie, how are you doing, and how are you feeling? And I thought, God is giving me what I need. I was just negating it because I was not getting it from her. And she was incapable. It's going to the hardware store for milk. She did not know how to do it. She did not know how to do it. And there, for the grace of God, go I. I did not know how to do or communicate or show my love either. And so I had started getting a new compassion for my mother. I started going to visit her, and I'd get off the plane, and she would say, "Oh, you wear jeans now, do you?" And then she'd say, "You know, Bonnie, if you're coming for a week, why bother come at all?" And you know what? Again, through Al-Anon, you learn compassion. Not only do we learn compassion for the alcoholic, we learn compassion for those of us living with the disease who've not had any recovery. Because I could interpret what she was saying. My mother was saying, and she didn't know how to say it, "Oh, Bonnie, I miss you so much. I wish you would come more often. I wish you would stay longer." She did not know how to say that. And when I didn't have to react to her and say something snarky back, I became safer to be around. Like I was safe in Al-Anon. I could give that to her. And I have to say, my mother, miracles happen. Miracles continue to happen. I never thought I'd have a relationship with my mother, and I never thought I would love my mother. And I would have to tell you, when she finally died at 95, mean as can be, never safe to be around, I could say I really love my mom. She became my hero. My mother got her first job at age 69. When my father died, she blossomed in her own way, right? She worked as a chef in a restaurant. The only thing she knew how to do was cook, because she always cooked for everybody. So she started out chopping lettuce, making salads, and worked her way all the way up. She worked until she was 91 when she had a stroke on the job, and never missed a day of work. They loved her. They loved her at that restaurant. And she was a hard worker. And Cleveland, Ohio, she shoveled the snow before she went to work. My hero, self-supporting through her own contributions. And a loving grandmother, And you know what? I found myself sharing this story from podiums, and I realized I never told her that she's my hero. And I remember a number of years ago, I wrote her a letter and told her how much I admired her for what she did and for where she came from, and having lived with alcoholism her entire life, you know. And anyway, I found this note just yesterday Thursday when I was packing. I found this note from my mother, who never in her life to me said, "I love you." Never could not verbalize anything. And this was after she started coming up to visit, and when we lived in Canada and we had a relationship, I said it was workable. I mean, from the outside you would say we're not very close, but from where we had come, it was enormous. And she sent me this note that I kept to this day, and I just came across it, and I kept it for one very special reason at the very end. And it's a short note, Bonnie, nothing, no, dear Bonnie, no, not Bonnie. To let you know I enjoyed this trip very much. You spent enough on me, so she gave me a little something. And so thank you very much. Talk with you soon. Love, your mother. And that's the miracle of the program. That's the miracle, because let it begin with me. I had no expectations. I didn't want a relationship. You just never know what God has in store for you by taking the action. And I am so grateful that I did those things. And when my mother died, I was so at peace that I knew that I was the best daughter I could be. And it's a real gift. It was not a quick journey, I will tell you. Not a quick journey at all. I mean, I have been in the program. Next week it'll be 40 years. I know, I came in when I was 5, right? Yeah. But it can happen, but it doesn't happen overnight. That was like a 20-year journey with my mom of going through my feelings, but it can happen. It can happen. And I got to tell you, I mean, I'm still a work in progress. I still have many an issue. And I also wanted to share about, when I was like 25 years in the program, it was like the most difficult year of my life. Because you see people with length of time in the program, do not think they have it all together and they're not sitting in incredible pain. Everything around me was falling apart. We lost the big house. My husband had gone through all sorts of money. destroyed our marriage again. My daughter was giving me problems. My mother was just making me crazy. It was so painful a time. So just because you see somebody with length of time, please go up to them. Don't think they have it all together, because we never have it all together. Life is always happening. I'm brought right back to step one all the time. And I will share a little my daughter, who's adorable. She's very much like her dad, let's put it that way. She's a party girl. And she got married a year and a half ago. And I have to tell this story because, again, it's Al-Anon. What would I have done without it? So she found a great guy. He lives in Chicago, and so the wedding was in Vancouver. And anyway, she's always been adorable. She's always been a party girl. She's been raised in the program, never saw her dad drunk. We've always gone to conventions. Our house is always filled with program people. She knows where to go. And anyway, it was like a snapshot of the disease, because we had the shower a week before in Vancouver. And his parents flew in, and that morning, and we had the shower for all the gals, right? His mom, gets drunk. Not just, I drink, I have a little wine. I do not change. I'm the same adorable person I am. But Mom gets drunk. I react to drunk. Nothing wrong with wine dinner, but I react to drunk. So, the men came up afterward, my new son-in-law-to-be, Michael, and I see this moment where he goes up to his mother, takes the glass of wine out of her hand, and hands her a bottle of water. And I thought, he's marrying his mother. My daughter, Miss Party Girl, who loves to drink, he's the taker care of her, totally. And in some ways, I was really upset. In another way, she's got somebody else who's going to watch over her. An untreated Al-Anon. But anyway, I was so upset that day. My insides were absolutely, I am so tired of this disease being around me and having to deal with it. And so I got home, called my sponsor immediately. It's like, I don't want to go to the wedding. I don't want anything to do with this. Thank God we can share all these feelings, right? And I have a choice. I didn't have to go to the wedding. I have choices today. But I thought, what am I going to do? If she is alcoholic, what am I going to do? She knows where to go. And so I made the choice just to love her, just to show up at the wedding and be loving. I didn't have to have a resentment. I didn't have to have attitude. I could just go and enjoy the wedding, and it was fabulous. Lots of partying and lots of drinking. And she was home for Thanksgiving, Canadian Thanksgiving this October, and it was, again, really upsetting. This time, this charming, adorable, gorgeous redhead, who was the life of the party, smart, where it turns that corner where she just became a loud, obnoxious, drunk woman. And it's heartbreaking. And I'm so glad she lives in Chicago. I really am. And I'll tell you, I was so upset by it. And my ex-husband was there. There's no animosity. We can get together and be with Kate, even though we're divorced now for 8 years. And I wrote her a letter, and I talked to Sean because he was visibly upset for the first time. He was denying, the disease of denial, that his daughter had a problem. And so I said, I have to write her a letter. I know there's nothing I can do, but I need to speak my truth, and that's what Al-Anon has also told me. I didn't have to do anything recriminating other than to say I had the most wonderful visit with her and the most heartbreaking visit with her. And I could talk about how upsetting it was to see my gorgeous daughter be this drunk, loud woman, that obviously alcohol is becoming a problem in her life. And that I loved her and that she could never do anything that she couldn't do anything or say anything that would stop me from loving her any less. And that I hope she would find a solution to this. And Sean wrote, I don't know what he wrote. He did not share it with me. And I emailed it to her, and I emailed it thinking she may never want to speak to me again. I didn't know how she was going to respond to it. And it didn't really matter. I just needed to speak my truth. And so within 20 minutes, I got an email back from her. And just love the alcoholics. She said, it was definitely not one of my finer moments. I thought, isn't that a great way of saying that? Not one of my finer moments. I don't know. All I can do is love her. All I can do is love her. And that's what the program has taught me. Don't enable, don't do. And again, I'm so grateful she lives in Chicago. And my journey, I'll tell you, Cornell today really spoke to me. There's certain areas that I have been dealing with that for me are not yet healed. And it's just become like crystal clear. And that need of that, I always say that scared little Polish girl is still inside of me. You know, I'm so tired of being afraid. I was always used to laugh. I could see it, you know, if I died, a bunch of Al-Anons would be at my funeral and they say, what did she die from, you know? Well, she scared herself to death, you know? I was just like, I can terrify myself in a New York minute. But I can get so afraid. I'm so tired of being afraid and not being enough and not measuring enough and not being smart enough, and maybe I said the wrong thing. And that self-centeredness, my ego, I always thought the alcoholic is so easy to see their ego because they're arrogant and out there. But mine is my self-centered ego, that I think everything revolves around me. You know, if somebody's upset, what did I do? What did I say? Oh my God, that I have that kind of power. But anyway, I have this defect is just so crystal clear, you know, and it's like, oh God, I am so ready for it to be removed and for you to heal it. But I have a business partner who I have now given this kind of power to. All I need is the right set of circumstances, right? Or the right personality, and I can give that power back. Anyway, my business partner, who is very smart, very accomplished, is super educated, you know, all these things beyond me, and that she would have me as a partner. Oh my God, really? Anyway, she was a couple years ago taking her son to university. They were setting him up, the family was going. So she said, well, I'm away. Would you take care of my goldfish, Lucy and Ethel? And she had the goldfish a long time. Lucy and Ethel were part of the family, right? They were these big, fat, juicy goldfish, right? And I said, oh, no problem, no problem. So I picked up Lucy and Ethel, and I put them on my kitchen counter, and within 30 minutes, they were floating in the water. Oh, my God. So in my keen thinking, I'll just replace the goldfish. So I took a picture of each of them, and I put them each in a container, and I put them in the fridge, because I may have to refer to them, right? And then I started the hunt at every aquarium store in all of Vancouver. I've got my pictures, and you can't replace goldfish. They don't all look alike. They don't. Lucy and Ethel were really big, fat, you know? And so the anxiety is building, right? Okay, now I understand I can't just replace them and forget this whole thing. The reality is sinking in, that I'm going to have to tell her. And so a week went by, and now she's coming back in a few days, and I'm now having a full anxiety attack. And so I can't breathe. I'm sitting in my office and I'm hyperventilating. My fingers are going numb, and my feet. I can't breathe. My heart is pounding. And so what do? I call my sponsor. This is what's happening. So she said, well, first of all, this is what I want you to do to get all those hormones and adrenaline things. She said, I want you to hang up the phone. I want you to put on marching music, and I want you to start marching and swing your arms. And when things calm down, call me. So there I am in my office. Okay, so we're 35 years in Al-Anon. Okay, I'm not going to give you a lot of hope, but 35 years in Al-Anon. And there I am, swinging my arms, and got the music going, and things are calming down on my insides, right? So they're calming down enough. I'm getting the feeling back in my hands. And so I called Pat, my adorable Pat, who's here. And so she said, no, she never tells me what to do. So, like, what are you going to do about this, Monty? Well, I guess I have to call her and tell her the truth. Yeah, right? But you know, I was terrified to do that. So she said, I want you to do that, and I want you to call me back. So I picked up the phone, I said a prayer, took a deep breath, and called my business partner. And we chatted about everything, about all the clients, about the business. And I said, finally, I have to tell you about Lucy and Ethel. And she said, they didn't make the trip, did they? I said, no, they didn't. And she said, I had a feeling that might happen, you know. But you know what it was for me? It is that part of me that is not yet healed. That I can give one person that kind of power because my thinking says, I was so terrified of being thrown away that I thought you would say, if you can't take care of 2 fish, how can I possibly trust you with our business, with our clients? Like, what am I doing with you, loser person? You know, that thing of being thrown away because I wasn't perfect, I did something wrong. And that inside of me, that lack of self-worth, that needing love, that needing attention, a crumb. And I accepted a crumb for a long time in my marriage because of that fear of not being loved, that fear of being thrown away. You know, the alcoholic, he paid off. I used to talk with my sponsor. She said, it's like playing the slots. Every now and then he paid off. And that kept me there. Every now and then he paid off. But you know what? I deserve more than a payoff now. I don't always still believe that. I'm still working on that, and that is a part of me that's still healing. I love this program. I really do. It's made me know who I am today, like who I am most of the time today. I know what makes me tick most of the time. And there's a wonderful saying that I just love, and please, nobody leave before your miracles, because they're still happening for me. They're still happening for me. And there's this May 22nd. I love this page because it's still a work in progress for me. And it says, when I can take the risk to look closely at myself and see my reality, because I love magical thinking. Oh, do I love magical thinking. But I can learn today that I am a child of God and believe it, and that I am all that I need to be. And I'm starting to believe this, that I am loving, that I am lovable, and that I am splendid. And that's all because of you. Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this recording. To obtain additional copies, receive a free catalog of AA and Al-Anon talks, or to find out about our Tape and CD of the Month Club, call Encore Audio Archives at 1-800-878-1308, or visit our website at www.12steptapes.com.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs, long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down. And then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.